Welcome back to another episode, I guess you could say, of discussing Kids Deserve It chapter by chapter. I am thrilled to be here with you guys, and I will just give everybody a couple of minutes to get a couple of seconds actually to get joined in, and then we will go ahead and get started. As you join in, I always love to see where people are from, so if you can share where you are from, I would love to hear that. And then we'll go ahead and get started in just a couple seconds. Florida. Oh, great. I'll be in Florida in February. Excited about that. Lauren, glad to have you on. San Diego. I'll be in California in 2 weeks. I can't wait to be back in Los Angeles with some friends. I'll be with a couple of my friends in Los Angeles. That's awesome. Well, I am thrilled to be back with everybody again after having last week off for Thanksgiving. And so thank you so much for joining today as I talk about chapter 17, which is Relationships Matter Most. I love this chapter just like I love a lot of the chapters, but I like this chapter because it talks about building those relationships. And as you know, if you ever expect to get anywhere with kids or with adults, you have to focus on building those relationships. And with kids, when you build those relationships and you prove to them that you truly do care about them more than just the words that are coming out of your mouth, then they will move heaven and earth to do incredible things for you. I have seen kids jump several reading levels in a year or be able to do math that you never thought they would be able to do just because you proved that you really cared about them by either going to their events after school or anything like that. And so, and I love what somebody just put in here too, is that adults need loving too. And I think that's so important. I mean, especially with school administrators, oftentimes a lot of school administrators focus so heavily on the kids that we forget the adults. And so we try to do some things like that too. And then jumping into something that I'll share with you that my campus is doing, that we're doing, this is our second year of doing this, talking about building relationships and, celebrating the adults as well, is on my campus we do a 12 days of Christmas at Webb. And so each day, our office administration, we choose a different way to celebrate our staff. And so, for example, tomorrow's December 1st, and that is exactly 12 school days before we are done. And so we are doing nachos tomorrow for the whole staff. So my assistant principals and I are bringing our crock pots, and we're going to cook nachos up for everybody to have. And then I can't share anything else that we're doing throughout the 12 days because I know one of my teachers is on here watching, and so I don't want her to ruin the surprise for others. But there's different things that we do, whether it's we make something for them, we leave something in their box, we write them something special, we find ways to cover their rooms or other things like that. We try to do different things to celebrate them for 12 days. Very inexpensive things that we can make happen, but that also force us as administrators to give up some of our time. And so we really try to do that kind of stuff. But like I was saying, building those relationships is really important with your kids too. And the great thing about building relationships is that it's incredibly easy. Does it take some time? Yes. And will it take some effort on your end to think of some ways that you can build a relationship with your kids? Yes. But we list a bunch of bullets in this chapter, and a few of my favorites in this chapter is celebrating small moments. And so I think it's huge to make sure that we celebrate those small moments with kids. Every small moment we can should be celebrated. Same with adults. And another one I like is talk to the kids like they're real people. Sometimes when we work with kids, we treat them like they aren't capable of having a conversation. They aren't capable of coming up with ideas and working with us and doing all these things when most of the time they just want to be talked to like they're a normal person. Some of the other easy things you can do are high fives, fist bumps, recognizing genius, asking for their opinion. There's a teacher that I am working with this year, virtually. His name is Jordan Pacheba, and he's a first-year teacher. And one of the things we were talking about when he was redesigning his classroom was I said, you know what, why don't you, and I think I talked about this in a Periscope before, is let the kids have a say. Select a kid and give them, say, I want you to redesign the room this week, and just give them full options. And he said the kids just loved it, and they couldn't believe they had the opportunity to change the room up. So asking for the kids' opinions. As a teacher, I would often poll my students on a weekly basis and say, what did you like in my class this week? What did you not like? What can I do better? And what is something you want me to do more of? And it gave me a really good view of myself as a teacher that I may have not seen before. The other thing about that is that you have to have a thick skin, because some of the kids will be really honest with you, but it improved my teaching dramatically, because I also started sending out those surveys once a month to parents to get a view from them too, and it really helped me see some miscommunications that I was having with parents that I didn't even realize I was having when 4 or 5 parents bring up the same thing in a survey. So it was really great for me. Some other things is sending staff members families notes. I love every year to send a note to every one of my staff members, family members, just telling them how much I appreciate them. I've been doing phone calls over the last couple weeks of family staffs as well. I called one of my teacher's dads yesterday actually, and spoke to him and just told him, you know what, I just love your daughter at our school. She's doing a great job, and we're just lucky to have her. And the parents just beam with pride. And then the teacher she came today and she's like, oh my gosh, my dad called me. He couldn't believe you called him. And so it was just a really neat thing just to get to have that kind of experience. Eating lunch with kids is huge. I mean, it's such an easy thing to do. And playing at recess and at PE, I can't stress enough the value that kids take when you play with them at recess or at PE. And I know you have to give up some of your time, your conference time, to play at PE. But you gain so much more by giving up that time than you ever would by going away and getting and doing other things that you obviously need to get done too, because that's how our lives are. I mean, as teachers, our jobs are never done. But playing at PE has been great for me to build relationships with kids. And my brand new toy, I got a hoverboard on Black Friday from Target. It was on sale. No, they don't catch fire anymore. Everybody keeps asking me that. That was last year. They fixed all that. And this one even comes with a big warranty, but it has a Bluetooth, so it plays music out of it. But yesterday and today, I have been going around the school on my hoverboard instead of walking. And oh my gosh, the kids have just been flipping out. They love it. And as I zoom around corners and zoom into classrooms, and I just fly by rooms, and kids are like, what's going on? And so it's been really neat to have those conversations with the kids and connect with them in a different way too, because now they all want to ride the hoverboard, but that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, so I don't think that's going to happen. But just me and my assistant principals are riding. I'm trying to get some teachers on board to take the risk of trying to do it too. But my favorite bullet out of all of these, though, and that leads into my story that I'm going to share with you, is the have a servant's heart bullet. I think, I view education so often like mission work, and that we have to have that servant's heart of what can I do for you? How can I help you? How can I be there? All those kind of things. And if we don't have that servant's heart, no one is going to truly believe that we care about them as much as we say that we care about them. And the story that I wrote about in here is called we called the section Going to Them. And what this story is about is that, when I did mission work in my youth, in the church, we don't ever beg people to come in constantly, because they're not coming in. You have to go to them. And I find it so interesting, the parallels that exist within education, where we beg parents to come to events, and we bring food, or we bring guests, or we bring door prizes, and we're like, please come, please come, please come. And then we get frustrated when not enough parents come, or not as many parents as we thought would come. And I thought, well, you know what? Why are we doing that? Why don't we go to where they are? Because I work in a very high poverty area. A lot of the parents would like to come to things, but can't because they have multiple jobs, or can't because they have no money or no gas, or the car doesn't work, or things like that. And so they'd like to be involved because, and it's so funny that I talk about all the time, but I had a parent come to me yesterday, and she apologized for missing the PTO meeting before Thanksgiving. And I said, no, it's okay. She goes, no, I really wanted to be there. I want you to know that. She goes, but I don't have a car right now, and there was no way I could get here. And I said, no, it's okay. It's fine. We can get you to the next one. She's like, well, I just wanted you to know I want to be a part of my child's education. And I just thought it was such a powerful moment to have with that parent that, some of them really do want to be involved, and they're doing the best they can. There's a Rita Pearson video where she talks about how the rules that we have at school, we cannot tell kids that the rules that they have at home and the life they have at home is not good enough, because those parents are doing the best they can with that kid, and it may not be what we think is the best, but in their own way, they're doing the best that they can with the kids that they have. And so, but anyway, going to them. And so when we were trying to figure out ways to reach these parents, we found that a lot of our discipline issues and a lot of our kids we were concerned about came from one general area. And there's an apartment complex in that area. And I said, well, you know what? I said, let's do what we're always talking about. Let's build relationships. Let's just go show them that we care. Let's have that servant heart. And I said, let's just go out there and cook hot dogs for them and have this big outdoor cookout thing. So I got with the junior high principal and I said, hey, I want to do this. Do you want to partner with me? We can do 2 schools and get a lot of kids there. And he was like, yes, I'm totally in. And so we work with Walmart, we work with the meat markets around town, we work with Sam's, and they donate about 75% of the stuff that we do. So we do it very cheap. And we feed about 350 people every time we do it. We got with the apartment complex manager and got permission, because I didn't know you had to get permission for this, but you did. So we got with her, and she's wonderful to work with. But we do it twice a year, sometimes more. But we go out, we bring a big old grill, and we just spend about 2 hours or so outdoors grilling for them. And it's so cool to drive up into an apartment complex where there's a couple of kids out playing, to set up a grill, and then to see kids just come out of everywhere, and adults, and they just come hang out and throw a football around. And I see somebody on here said they did their first one 2 weeks ago. Are you the school from Florida that I saw on Twitter? Because Adam and I were talking about, there's a school in Florida that took and did this and was tweeting about it and tagging us, and I just loved seeing their tweets. It was so exciting. I have to get down there to come say thanks to that school. Oh, you are? Awesome. That's so cool. Anyway, so we did the cookout, and I invited my teachers. I didn't make it mandatory, but I said, I really want you guys to be there because this is where we build relationships. And we have probably about half the staff show up, which is great for an evening when my teachers are already exhausted to begin with. It's great that many showed up, and so. What they do is they all come out and they eat and we serve, and every single time that we do this, and we've done it probably 9 or 10 times now, every single time that we do it, somebody comes up to us and says, why are y'all doing this? And I love just being able to look at them and say, because we love you, and that to be it. Because we don't pass out pamphlets, we don't ask for volunteers, we don't do any of that. We just go out there and serve them and hang out and play football. And I remember the first time doing it and having a teacher come to me the next day and say, that was the best thing that we've ever done. And I said, I know, it was great, was it? She goes, no. She goes, I completely understand my students now. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, they invited me into their house. And she said, Todd, it's a 1-bedroom house and there's 11 people that live there. She goes, I couldn't believe it. There was like no furniture. There was just a mattress on the ground. They didn't have running water. And she was like, I totally understand this now. And I can so much better relate to the kids when they see that and when they feel that. And then for our kids, I saw somebody just comment that after doing this, one of their kids made a complete 180. The same is true of many of our students. Some of our most difficult students, I can have a totally different conversation with at school now when they have difficult days, because they know I care about them, because I came and hung out at their apartment complex and I cooked hot dogs and I sat and read with them, or we colored, or we threw the football around, or my teachers, there's a lot of kids that like to stand around the circle and sing this song. I think it's Little Sally Sue or something. I don't know what it is. I don't ever sing it with them. But they all do it, and the kids dance around and do all this stuff, and music comes out, and it's such a neat one of those experiences that it's so easily replicable that I think, if we want to change parents' perspectives of education and teachers and what we do, especially when we work in a system that is so many times focused on high stakes testing and your kid's not achieving and all these other things, if we want to really break through and reach these parents, we have to start being that servant, and we have to start going out there and meeting them where they are. And I have absolutely loved seeing the turnaround in so many of our kids and many of our parents. Because now there's a lot of parents I can call and they say, you know what, Mr. Noah Saloni, for you, I'll do it. I'll be up there in just a minute and we'll have this conversation and we'll bring him in on it and we'll fix this problem right now. Because they know that we care about them more than just a button, a chair, or a number on a page. Servant leadership is where it's at. And you do not have to be an administrator to be a servant leader. If you're a teacher, a janitor, cafeteria worker, secretary, whatever your job is in education, even not in education, you can find ways to serve others. And you don't have to wait for someone to lead the way. I love working with my kids to come up with servant projects that they can take a part of. whether it's asking permission if we can walk down to the nursing home and spend an hour at the nursing home, writing Christmas cards to kids at an orphanage and mailing them, collecting canned goods, the Socktober that Kid President celebrates every year, or we collect jackets and shoes, or, you know, just having time to connect with others and show that being a servant is where it's at. And that also means serving the people you work with. I think it's really important that you find ways to celebrate those you work with and serve them. Maybe your team member has a different duty day than you. Offer one time, you know what, I want to do your duty today. Thanks for all the work you do. I just want to let you know that I recognize the work you do. Talk about one of those best uplifter moments is to be able to do something like that. And so I encourage you to think about ways that you can build more relationships with your kids, but also with your teams, with your administrators. Find ways to encourage your administrators as well, whether they're assistant principals, counselors, secretary, principals, whatever. I think it's so great to spend time making sure that they feel valued just as much, because so often all day long, they're handling the difficult kids, or they're handling the difficult parents, or they're handling the difficult paperwork or whatever. Every single person in education has a difficult job, no matter what your role is. It all just looks a little bit differently. So take some time this week, especially in the Christmas season or after Thanksgiving, to let people know how grateful you are for them, and to find a way, that is your challenge before next week's Periscope, find a way to serve somebody else. And I'd love to see your comments on Twitter, or share them in the comments on Periscope for next week. And join our Kids Deserve It chat here in just a couple minutes at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. We're also going to be announcing a big Christmas surprise from Kids Deserve It. So make sure you check that out during the chat. That'll be announced about halfway through the chat, and you can find more information about that. See all you guys next week.